Hello everybody. So this tutorial I'm going to attempt to teach you how I color my galaxy stars with Ohuhu alcohol markers. Everything I'm using will be in the description. Let's get started. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is just draw a square with a pencil. Doesn't have to be perfect or anything. You can draw a circle, a triangle, whatever you want. You could even just do it on your paper without making a shape if you want to color the whole paper, and it's your choice. So the first color we're going in with is our lightest shade of green, G320 Jade Green. And we're just going to color a circle, coloring in like little circular motions. We're going to leave the paper white in the very center initially. So we're just coloring in little circles like this, leaving the white in the middle. Go around a second time, make sure that color's in there. And then we're gonna get our second shade of green, which is G410 Light Holly Green. We're not going to overlap them. If the two colors touch, that's okay. I'm coloring in circles because coloring in circles makes for easier blending later on versus just drawing horizontally or vertically or just straight lines. When you color in circles, I personally find it blends better. And then we're going to get our third shade of green, which is G260 Apple Green. I'm going to do the exact same thing again. Color in little circles around that hoop that we just did. I'm basically mimicking my pencil crayon galaxies and just transferring it into a marker technique, which I am still practicing. And then we're going to go back to the very first shade, which was our lightest green, G320 Jade Green. And we're going to color in the center where the white is. And we're going to keep going in a spiral all the way through all of the colors. Now we're going to get our darkest green, which is G470 Pine Tree Green. And what we're going to do is we're just going to do vertical lines very slowly up and down on our paper, slightly overlapping to avoid getting streaks. Depending how this color takes, I normally do go for a second layer of ink on cardstock paper because the white kind of does show through. We're going to slightly touch the green. See, I'm going to slightly touch the hoop. I'm not going to completely go over it. Make sure you alternate between both sides of the star down here with the dark green, because if you leave one area too long to air dry, it will leave streaks. So you see I'll keep alternating between under the star and above the star, just so I can keep the ink flowing, keep the ink moving on both sides. I'm always slightly overlapping my lines. Going very slowly. I'm realizing I covered too much there, so the star looks a little deformed there. That was my bad. Okay, we're going to do another layer. Same exact thing that we just did. So you can see the paper looks nicer now because we're doing another layer of ink. So be very careful when you're going around the circle of your star. As you can see, I messed up one side of my star. I'm still going to keep working with it and just try to show you the technique of what I'm doing. So just try to be careful to try to keep a circular shape, which I did not do. So your star will look more circular. Mine's gonna look kind of weird because obviously it's not perfectly circle anymore, which in case, if I was doing a project, I'd probably scrap this because you want stars to be circular. Maybe when I do the other layers, it will correct itself. We will see. Now we're gonna reverse color what we did from the beginning, but we're not going to go with the dark because we just used the dark for the background. So we're going to go to our third shade of green, G260 apple green. And we're just going to go in little circles right down the middle of that line that's separating the dark sky from that lighter green. So we're just going to go in little circles like this, right down the middle, all the way around. We're going to go around twice. Then we're going to get our second shade of green, G410 light holly green. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to follow that shade we just did, and we're going to do little circles right down the middle of that line, all the way around. I like to go around twice. You can go around once too. Sometimes I go around once, not twice, just depending how you want the color to look. And then our lightest shade, we're going back in with that, which is G320 Jade Green. We're gonna do the exact same thing. We're gonna go around the line we just did right down the middle and do little circles directly in the middle of that line that we just did. I like to go around twice. And then we're going to do what we did in the beginning. We're going to color in the center and just do a spiral around and around and around. Don't go to the darkest shade though, just to the lighter shade. Like, don't go out into the sky. And there you have it. That is how I color the glowy part for my stars with markers. You don't have to use green. You can use any color you want. You can use blue, pink, red, orange, any color you want. Just pick 4 shades of one color. For the lightest shade, I would recommend picking like the most pastel, lightest possible shade, like closest to white that you could pick in that shade. So if you're gonna pick pink, pick the lightest shade of pink that's the closest you can get to white for your first shade. The other shades, just try to pick them as close to one another as possible. It's never going to be perfect. Always test them out on a scrap piece of paper to see how the colors look together. And yeah, so then basically we're just waiting for the paper to dry. I shake it around, help it to air dry. Cardstock takes a few more minutes to dry than like regular paper, coloring book paper. Cardstock's much thicker. I'm using 100-pound cardstock, so it does take a little bit longer to dry. Just gonna get a piece of scrap paper over here. And now I'm going to be using my UniPosca paint pen. It's a white paint pen. The nib is 0.7 millimeters, pin type. I'm just gonna shake it up. Excuse me. I'm just gonna wipe it off on a paper towel. It always has a little bit of mess on it from the last time I used it. Then we're gonna pump it and prime it. Just roll it around, get the tip cleaned. Okay, now we're gonna draw our actual star. The star you wanna put directly in the center as possible to where the white paper initially was, right in the center. We're just gonna color a little white circle. And that's our star. Now we're gonna add some stars to the background, which is the sky. If this was a coloring page, you would have colored the whole sky in with this dark green. If you want very tiny stars, barely touch the paper. The bigger the star you want, you can either keep tapping the same spot to release more ink, or you can color in a circle like this. And just place how many you want. Some people like to put like a lot of stars. Some people like to put just a few little bit of stars. Whatever you like, however you want it to look, because it's your art. I like to turn my paper. It's just easier not to lean my hand into the wet ink, which takes a few seconds to dry, but I have leaned my hand into it by an accident so many times because I forget the ink's not always dry right away. If your star looks slightly deformed, like a weird shape or an oval, double tap it to give it more ink to make it circular, because when your stars are deformed, they don't look as nice. And there, you can leave it just like that with the star, and the markers that we colored is like the glow effect around the star. I personally like to do bigger stars. Sometimes I leave it just like this, but if you like to make the star larger, we're going to make 4 lines. We're going to start in the middle, going up, going down, going to the right, and going to the left. And when you do this, which I'm always practicing, and I sometimes mess it up, you add more pressure like in the center where the star is, and you allow more ink to come out, and you kind of flick it and release it, like put less pressure as you're releasing your line. When you do these stars on the marker, like these marker stars, I would recommend dragging your line just outside into the sky past the last dark ring, because it just looks better, I find. If you leave it within the circle, it looks a little bit funny. But if you like to make it shorter and you like it looking shorter, that's your choice. That's totally fine, whatever you like. I just personally like the lines to be extending past the glowy rings out into the sky, like that. I'm gonna press a little bit harder, and then I'm gonna release. That one I made it a little bit too long. Stars aren't always gonna be perfect anyway, but this does take a little bit of practice. Like getting the hang of it. And I think I find, like, if you try this with jelly rolls, it's a little bit harder. Well, for me, I struggle with it because I find they're not juicy enough, like there's not enough ink in the same way, like the flow of a jelly roll. So this is why I use UniPosca. I just prefer them. But of course you can do it with a jelly roll. You just got to practice on a scrap piece of paper. Now I'm just going to do a couple of horizontal lines. I mean diagonal lines, my bad. This way and this way. We're just going to do the same thing, but shorter little lines. If you have to go over the lines because you messed them up the first go, it's kind of harder to fix them. But just try your best. And there we have it. A marker galaxy star. This is how I make them. Experiment with different colors and see what you can come up with. I'm still learning how to blend with markers. I think that this turned out pretty nice. And combining them with galaxy clouds, which I also have that tutorial up already, which you could do green galaxy clouds with the green galaxy stars or whatever color you're working with. And it can really give like a nice touch to your coloring pages or whatever art you're making. Well, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, you can ask in the comments and I will get back to you. Yeah, so thanks for watching. Bye.